the way too early, top 25.
Yeah.
You never want to put too much smoke into this. Also, the over-unders came out for Florida. It was 6.5 is the number. And again, that's telling you that Vegas is favoring Florida in six-ish games of the 12 games, and one of them is probably a pick'em. Is kind of where they're looking at. If you look at it, you know how they should be favored. It's probably closer to 7. And then as the season goes on, that will change. But as of now, that's how they're viewing next season. But when I took a look at this top 25, what really is eye-opening to me is just how wide open it is. And I kind of have a weird hot take. I was trying to formulate this in my head, and I don't know if it's going to come off the way that I'm thinking as it will. But going into next season, I think is the first time in probably 5 years that we don't have just this overwhelming dominant team. Going into this year, Ohio State, everyone felt was the best team. Now, they didn't look at that at times, but ultimately ended up being that team. Michigan was the team last year. No question. Like, there was never that Michigan team brought everybody back, had a ton of NFL talent, was primed to go and win a national championship. And by golly, they did. Before that, it was Georgia, right? It was like Georgia and everybody else. And then going back further, we can keep kind of getting nitty gritty with it. But this year, it feels wide open. There's only one team, in my opinion, and I think this is the take that we're gonna get away from those stacked teams because of the NIL. You're not able to stack talent like you used to. So you're not going to see this build up and just kind of, I think, the reign of carrying over. I could be wrong. But Penn State seems to be following the formula that Michigan and Ohio State did. They're kind of where this year, where Ohio State was last year, and where Michigan was 2 years ago before they won. A lot of NFL talent, bringing back their senior quarterback, right? They're in a really good position, and it arguably could be in that number one spot, just given what's all coming back. Georgia, I was talking about, again, Georgia's an interesting one. They're losing their entire defensive line. Their entire defensive line. Their guy that's coming up, Jordan Baby Hall, who was a 5-star guy who we missed on, didn't play at all this past year. So he's going to be playing basically like a sophomore season. Their entire offensive line, I think 3/4 of it, or 3 or 4 of it, like 3, yeah, 3, again, 4 or 5 of them are gone. And the guys coming in, go take a look at it. It's not like these just 5-star, it's the size. It's because they wouldn't follow the Billy Napier style. We're just picking all of their leftovers. Now, they got some talent. Don't get it twisted. Like Monroe Freeling, big-time tackle, great stuff there. They got some 4-star guys in between it. But it isn't kind of just this overwhelming backup. And then, of course, the question mark at Gunnar Stockton, all these things. Ohio State's taking a step back. Now, they've got arguably the best wide receiver we've seen in my lifetime. I can't wait to see what Jeremiah Smith's going to do. Caleb Downs is going to come back. I was talking today, man. He possesses that Ed Reed style of safety where he's just like, safety is, I would say, the least impactful role in the defense unless you have somebody like a Caleb Downs that can come in. He plays like a nickel. He can play. He just plays everywhere. They're just like, yo, just go kill somebody. The guy's a hawk. Like, he's not your typical strong safety. The guy is a difference maker. So you got a great place for Ohio State, but Julian Sand coming in, not a lot of information. They're losing both their running backs. They're losing they're losing the heart of their defense. This show is, of course, brought to you by BetUS. And right now, when you use the code YouTube150 at BetUS.com, you get 150% back on your first deposit, then $125 on your next two. And with the football playoffs, college football championships and playoffs happening, and then March Madness right around the corner, there is not a better time right now than to sign up for BetUS.com and use that code to maximize your return. Check it out, BetUS.com. Use the code YouTube150. Now back to the show. Get after it. Bringing a lot of their O-line back, though. That's going to be good. So great. All these teams, my point of this is, Ohio State, great pieces, question marks. Texas, they lost a lot of talent to the NFL. Great pieces, right? How does it all come together? Notre Dame is probably the only team I don't have much information. So we'll skip them. Georgia, kind of just discussed them. Oregon, same thing. Losing some guys. Still have recruited very well. Always aggressive in the portal. They'll be up there as well. Clemson. I may have overlooked here. Clemson is kind of fitting into that Penn State category. They're kind of peaking. They're peaking at the right time. Got a lot of talent coming back. Oh, Klubnik, right? That's a good opportunity. LSU, kind of similar. Nussmeier going into his second full year as a player. That's another team to keep an eye on next year. South Carolina, Lenore Seller, great defense. They're bringing back Nick Harbert, the edge rusher who I can't think of right now, got paid like $60 million to stay. That team's got a lot of key pieces that are going to be fun to watch. Alabama, I think a massive question mark there. Massive question mark. And then, of course, Florida kind of fits, has a little bit of everything. Arguably the most talented, highest ceiling in quarterback in college football with DJ Lagway. We've got Dallas Wilson coming in. That's going to be a star. Eugene Wilson, Aiden Mizell. You bring in Studervent on the defensive side of the ball. You bring him. A lot of these teams have exciting pieces. You know what I mean? And Michigan's another one I could argue in the top 10. I think they're bringing back a really good team. There's an excitement here that I'm really looking forward to that, look, it's going to work itself out like it always does, but it just doesn't feel like somebody just has the clear-cut favorite to take it all because of how much turnover there is headed into next season in the good kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of turnover. I know LSU did really, really well in the portal. They did really, really, really well high school recruiting wise. I think,
They did.
obviously, they're coached by who? What? What's up? You say hey,
They
Dave?
did. I was agreeing with you. Sorry.
Oh yeah. I thought you said hey, Dave.
Oh,
But yeah. I think LSU's gonna be a very tough team this year, just based on what
agreed.
they have. And of course, Brian Kelly's their coach. We already know that, and we know how that goes. And then you're still seeing the struggles with Alabama. They have some key losses there too. I mean, you go to Georgia. I mean, like their main players that they lost. I mean, you look at it, Carson Beck. He went to Miami. ETN, don't worry about him. Jalen Walker, Malachi Starks, Michael Williams. I mean, like these are just key losses that I read in this article from ESPN. And then, of course, you got Tennessee. They've lost Sampson. They've lost some other pieces there too. Now they brought in a lot of good O linemen, and they returned the quarterback. And Nico could get better. He could get worse, or he could stay the same. You got
Sure.
Ole Miss, who I think, obviously they're losing talent, but I am very, very high on Austin Simmons. I think Austin Simmons, when I was looking at him when we were recruiting him, unfortunately he flipped to Ole Miss. I was like, dude, this kid is one of the best pure passers I've seen in a long time. Like, literally looked at the film, and that wasn't just me being a Florida homer when I was looking at it. I was like, man, this kid's really good. And I think I remember when we had Connor Clark on, I think me and him were talking about him when he committed to Florida, and we're like, he might be a better passer than Lagway, like just
Mm,
based on just pocket passing. Now, that
mm,
doesn't mean he's going to be a better quarterback, but
sure.
I mean, we saw what happened when he had to come in for Jackson Dart against Georgia. He drove
Look
it
good.
right down the field for a touchdown. Looked really good as a backup. So I think they're a team to kind of look out for there too. Carson Beck may or may not be good with the surgery and everything else he's got now. Miami returns the offensive line, so that's going to help him out there a little bit more too. Obviously, you got returning defensive lineman, offensive lineman for the University of Florida. That game, week 4, I believe, is going to be one of those games where I will troll the crap out of Miami fans if we win that game. But I mean, you've got some teams on here returning pieces, but also they're missing some key pieces too. So, like, you'll have a team that's okay, well, returning some good defensive linemen, but we lost our quarterback or we lost a bunch of our wide receivers, or, you know, it's crazy. I think South Carolina has a good chance to make some noise this dude
Very
year
much.
too.
Agreed.
Um,
Lenore
it
Sellers,
is
man, he
just
was fun to watch last year, and that defense at South Carolina, man, they were playing some really
yeah,
good ball. I think they had to kind of took a couple tough breaks in some games, but I mean, they're a game away from being in the college football playoffs, and who knows? I mean, Beamer Ball, that guy's crazy. You don't know what to expect. But Miami's an interesting one. Our boy Andy Staples talked about it today, and I love that. I
yeah,
tagged one of my Miami guys in it because he was saying that, hey, I think Florida's further along right now than Miami,
yeah.
and
Wait,
people were
didn't
going
didn't
nuts.
didn't Mario Cristobal say that? Like the trajectory and Miami's on a better trajectory. Isn't that what he said? And he like pounded his fist on the table. Yeah.
He did. But it was look, and Andy. I mean, he's going to get thrashed for all those things for those comments from Miami guys. And I got where he was coming from. It's like, look how the season ended, and Florida is growing to what we saw, where Miami was kind of fizzling out. And in a way, Cam Ward is what Jordan Travis was to FSU. I mean, that guy really
Yeah.
brought that team to life, and I don't see Carson Beck just bringing that team to life like that. He's not
No,
even
no.
playing the spring game, so you're not going to see what Carson Beck brings to the table till come August. And so that's where I think he's coming in and like, look, when you think about it like that, Miami kind of fizzled out where Florida was finding its rhythm, and that's where Florida is up here because of the turnaround, because of the progress they made on defense, because of the things they saw. And again, a lot of that team is coming back, which we've talked about of retaining that. And I talked a little bit about this on Tuesday morning on the show that I did with the Ohio State situation, because Ohio State obviously winning the national championship, everyone's like, look, okay, what that was the blueprint. I don't, and that's my point. I don't think that's a reality moving forward. I think spending money is correct, but they kind of were at a perfect point where they are able to stockpile talent that they have nurtured. They only got three key guys. That's not, I don't say only lightly, but it wasn't like they were just some by the side team. No, they had all the right pieces and go get three guys. And let's not get it twisted. We said this, there was a clip about it. There's no 12-team playoff. Ohio State's blueprint gets crumpled up and thrown to the trash because when they needed it most, if they would have needed it most, they lose to Michigan. They're not even in the playoffs. So now that's not how the world works. They were in, they win it. That's what matters. But yeah, I don't think it's the true full blueprint because there's just, you don't have that stockpile offense anymore. And I don't think you're going to be able to keep enough to get to a point of that. It's going to be a lot of turnover from year to year, which is, again, the whole idea of the NIL. It levels out the playing field.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it this year. I mean, I think this is like the peak of where you see the turnover of NIL, especially with the changes they made to the transfer portal. I know that they're going to shorten it, which I think is actually really good that they should shorten that because it's getting out of control. Like, I mean, you're seeing a lot of kids do stupid things, and of course, like you still have the rule where like if somebody gets fired, you got 30 days to transfer. You still got the 5-day transfer thing after the bowl games and all that other kind of stuff. So there's still going to be openings. It's just they're going to shorten the opening to like 10 days, I think is what I read. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you're starting to see where NIL and even if you're tampering, we know all the schools do it, but like we're starting to see now where NIL is even out the playing field a little bit more. So it's more of like a free for all. Of course, you're going to have teams every year that are pretty stacked and you're going to run into that, but you're going to run into it less. Like, you're not going to have like back in the day with Alabama just dominating college football and nobody can beat them because their defense and offense is just killing everybody that's in their way because they have all the money. They do they you can't monopolize it anymore. So I think that's what's added a cool concept to it, especially the 12-team playoff. Now you have to go through like a 4-team, 3-team gauntlet depending on whether you get a bye or not too. So it's like there really is a harder path to get to the national championship, but at the same time, you know there's more of an even path between all the teams.
Yeah, in a weird way, it kind of has come full circle to where it goes back to, hey, you've got to recruit well, you got to develop, and you got to coach well, and you got to do it quickly. The portal will serve
Yeah,
a purpose, right, of filling pieces, but eventually, with it
yeah.
being cut down, I don't think you're going to be able to turn over a roster as much as some teams are doing it currently. Which again resorts back to how it was, where you're having to be the way this season looks like it's going to be is perfect in my eyes. You've got a lot of key pieces. You've built up, you've developed, you got some key stars returning for a lot of guys, and it's like, okay, you're relying on, hey, is Gunnar Stockton going to turn out to what he was supposed to be? Is Arch Manning, the perfect quarterback, going to live up to the hype this following year? Is Julian Sano,
Yep.
once a 4-star or a 5-star quarterback who was once at Alabama, transfers to Ohio State to be the guy, get a lot of hype coming? Is he going to be the guy? Dante Moore for Oregon, ton of hype coming out of high school for this kid, supposed to be the next guy, goes to UCLA or US. I always get a mix with Malachi Nelson. Then transfers to Oregon, right? Kay Klubnik was supposed to be the guy, takes over DJ Ugalali. Doesn't really do much early on. Now he's peaking. Garrett Nussmeyer, a lot of hype behind him, and people kind of complain about him. Kid's good, guys. Don't sleep on this kid. Lower Sellers comes out of the clouds, in my opinion. Very exciting. You got Keelan Russell, 5-star guy, going to Alabama. He's going to be the guy. And then, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, DJ Lagway for the Florida Gators. I mean, you can't script anything better than this. I mean, you've got all these teams that have got key pieces, key returning components with all the key star in the making. Lenore Sellers, Arch Manning, Julius Sane, Dante Moore, DJ. I mean, you just kiss me, baby. I love it. I'm fired up for it.